Today, we're going to help you overcome the 4 common frustrations that people encounter when they learn English with comprehensible input. Right, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. I'm Joseph, this is Input English. Let's get started. There are 4 common frustrations that people encounter when they use comprehensible input for English. The first one is it's counterintuitive. The idea that we can listen to a story and as a side effect of understanding the story, we can learn a language collides with our common sense. This frequently causes disbelief when one is learning English as a second language or perhaps a third or a fourth language. As an adult, we come to this process with a lot of life experience about learning. We know how to learn things, and a lot of the learning that we have done up to this point has been didactic, very explicit learning of facts. Comprehensible input is very different than what we were taught in school. Now, I'm not anti-school. Schools have great value to societies, but schools have been shown to not be very good at teaching languages to fluency. Schools tend to focus on performance as measured by tests. And so in school, the teaching and our learning behavior is designed for test performance. In language learning, for the most part, we're not interested in test performance. I understand that there are some times that we must demonstrate our proficiency by passing a test. But those of us who are trying to acquire English here should mostly be focused on actually learning the language, acquiring the language, and being able to use that language. When we compare what we learned in school and how we learned in school to what we are learning in comprehensible input and how we are learning it, it doesn't add up. It doesn't match. And we may get frustrated with comprehensible input because it's so different from our school experience. We get a lot of messaging about language learning that uses the term practice. We have to practice our English, practice our Spanish, and yet comprehensible input is not really focused primarily on practice. It's primarily focused on acquiring the language by input from listening and reading. Now, I'm not saying that practice is not important. It's just not part of the comprehensible input plan to give you this language in your head. Input's the name of the game to acquire the language, and then practice is what you do after you've acquired a lot of the language. Now, practice also stimulates more input because once you can speak in English and you start talking to English speakers, what that's going to do is stimulate them to talk to you, and so you get more input. So you get a snowball effect where things get bigger and bigger with time. Comprehensible input is frequently counterintuitive to us because we're not doing the early output that we may have been exposed to in traditional language learning. When I was in high school, the first day, we started saying words aloud, even though we didn't know them, and our pronunciations were quite poor. We were starting with output on day 1. If we are taught that there is a need for early output, and then we're introduced to comprehensible input, we find comprehensible input counterintuitive because it doesn't match our earlier experiences. It doesn't match what we were taught. So when we hear about comprehensible input, it sounds almost too good to be true. This all becomes even more counterintuitive when you add the concepts of cognitive psychology. As I've told you in previous videos, we learn better if we space out our review of the material. This is not what we learned in school. This is not what we consider normal. But spacing is the most powerful way to improve your absorption of the language by comprehensible input. I also introduced the concept of interleaving. With interleaving, you review the material and then you go do other things. You let your mind rest on other activities, other material, and then you come back to this having done those other things. This interleaving of other material improves our learning. So between us thinking that comprehensible input is too good to be true and spacing plus interleaving is the opposite of what we have done in the past, we conclude that comprehensible input by this method to learn English is a little counterintuitive. So to overcome this feeling that it's counterintuitive, we have to trust the method. This method that we are using to learn English or improve our English with comprehensible input is based on solid science and decades of experience. So this is not just some strange ideas that we cooked up this past week and we're trying to sell them to you. Not at all. This approach has a solid basis in science and experience. The way I overcame this impression that it is counterintuitive is by trusting the methods. Number 2, the double learning curve. Now this is something that nobody's talking about, and I don't think you'll find any other discussions about that, but it's very real. So let's define our terms. The term learning curve is used commonly in English to describe the initial difficulty one encounters learning new material. If something is difficult to learn, we say it has a steep learning curve. In its purest form, the term learning curve describes a mathematical relationship or a ratio between the amount of effort one puts in over time and the amount of progress one makes. When you say learning curve, you're suggesting that there is a graph and that you are graphing results against effort. When we are learning a language, there is a learning curve. We have to put a lot of effort in over a long period of time, and then gradually our progress is noted. We may get a mistaken impression early on that we've made more progress than we actually did. If this occurs, sometimes people get very frustrated when they realize what little progress they've actually made. That phenomenon has been attributed to the Dunning-Kruger effect. Psychologists Dunning and Kruger pointed out that when someone starts a new learning activity, initially they may get a mistaken impression of how much they have actually learned. But I said double learning curve. What's this other learning curve that I haven't mentioned yet? That's the learning curve of utilizing the input that you have chosen. Each source of input has its own style. The presenters have their own particular pronunciation, the vocabulary they're using, the cadence of their speech, and whether or not they have salted in slang expressions or local expressions that you may not be familiar with. What I found is when I found a new source of comprehensible input for my study of Spanish, there was a period of time when I had difficulty with the new input. I had to learn how the presenter spoke. I had to learn to listen at that particular speed. And there were words that I didn't know that I needed to acquire. So not only are we learning the language, we're also learning each source of input that we get. If the content is well made and well suited to your level, this learning curve for the content is not severe, but you may notice it in your journey. I encountered it when I attempted to use Cien Años de Soledad as input for my Spanish learning. What I found is that this input was difficult. The speech was very flowery and poetic. And when I listened to it on an audio book, I had to deal with the presenter's accent, and it was unfamiliar initially. Now, the good news is this learning curve progresses and you can overcome this, but you may find some initial frustration with certain input when you first start using it. The way I overcome this frustration with the double learning curve is simply the insight that it is normal. Everybody goes through this. It is typical of the use of comprehensible input. That insight was all I needed to relax and discard my frustration. Number 3, you can't tell you're making progress. In most processes that we encounter in life, there are ways of determining the progress that you have made. If you're driving from point A to point B, you see in a digital display on your car the number of miles that you have traveled. Or if you know it's a 1-hour trip, you know the number of minutes you've been traveling, and from that you can estimate how much more time it will be. With modern cell phones, we frequently have a digital readout on our phone of how much longer it's going to take before we arrive. With comprehensible input, none of that feedback is available. We start using the input, we listen to it, we absorb it, and over a period of weeks and months, we have no feedback that we've made any progress at all. This can be very frustrating. This is actually why I made a video showcasing my 300-hour rule. My observation is that if you are looking for improvement on an hourly, daily, or even weekly basis, you'll be frustrated that you can't discern that you've made any progress at all. There's no sense of motion. There's no sense of improvement. If you consider where you are compared to where you were 300 hours of input earlier, you will be able to tell the difference. The way I overcame my frustration with this sensation of no progress was to trust the system. It is going to work for me if I do it well. And secondarily, I don't look for daily or weekly progress. I compare where I am today with where I was 300 hours ago. And number 4, it takes more time than we expected. Now, there are many reasons for this frustration. One is overly optimistic claims that we encounter on the internet suggesting that we can easily acquire a new language using comprehensible input. We are sold this idea that it's a fairly quick and easy process. On this topic, I am scrupulously careful to not make false claims and not mislead people into thinking that this is a quick and easy process. That said, comprehensible input is ideal for learning English because English is so complex. The pronunciations are unpredictable. And English contains words from many different languages. It is helpful to understand that by far the best way to learn English is by comprehensible input. Also, when we consider how long it is going to take, there is a fundamental problem. That is, this project of learning English has no specific destination. There is no end point, and people can get very frustrated if they realize that they're in a journey that is never ending. So with these 4 frustrations that people commonly encounter, the first one, I would say, trust the system, it works, it's solid. And the rest we handle with the insight that this sensation that we're getting, these frustrations we're getting, are actually normal, and we can just accept that the sensation of frustration is normal and get on with the business of getting more input, making more progress. There really is no magic bullet to get rid of all of these 4 frustrations other than understanding them and moving beyond them. Hope you enjoyed this. I invite comments below, and if you like videos like this, be sure to click on this one next. See you soon.